Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. This video was inspired by my husband. He did not believe me when I said that some part of California belonged to Russia one day. So today I will talk about Russian colony in California. In spring 1812, the Russian-American company ventured south from its base in southern Alaska and established a small hunting agricultural outpost in northern California. The Russian colony sprawled thinly across the coast of present-day Sonoma County and was centered at Settlement Ross, a site within Metini. Roughly 20 miles to the south, the Russians built Port Rumyantsev, today called Bodega Bay. Also, they built a small farm on Farallon Islands. Ross was the most southern colony in the North America for Russians. It consisted of administrator house, workers' house, building for repairing, storage, and church. Along the fortress, there were 4 cannons that were never used. The distance from San Francisco was 150 kilometers. The settlement had a good geographical location, nearby forest and harbor. Ross was created as an agricultural settlement to provide food for Alaska, where hunting and fur trade was developing. In Fort Ross, the first mills, shipyards, and fruit gardens appeared in California. Agriculture was not as productive as cattle breeding. In the late 1830s, they had 1,700 cattle animals, 940 horses, and 900 sheep. Craftsmen produced furniture, doors, cards, and handled iron and copper. They also built ships, which some of them were sold to Spanish. The relations with Spanish were relatively calm. Although the Spanish considered California as their own land, Russian-American company emphasized that the territory north from San Francisco was not defined. Understanding that it was impossible to fight Russians without getting into the war, Spanish governor speeded the colonization of California. After establishment of Mexico in 1821, diplomats tried to drive out Russians, but their attempts were unsuccessful. The population of Fort Ross was multinational. In 1825, there were 50 Russian workers, indigenous people brought from Alaska, and indigenous people from California. By 1836, the population slightly increased and constituted 260 people. Russian population was mainly male, who signed a 7-year contract with a Russian-American company. There were almost no female Russians, so mixed marriages were a common thing. The society was highly hierarchical. Ethnic and social differentiation was similar. Fort Ross was divided into 5 strata. At the top of the pyramid, there was a colony administrator and other managing staff. Second strata was constituted by Russian workers hired by Russian-American company. Third strata included Aleuts and indigenous people of California, who were hired by Russian-American company. Fourth strata included Aleuts who were sent to California for hunting, but due to a decline in numbers of sea beavers, they had to do low-skill labor, for example, lumbering. In Alaska, Aleuts were at the bottom of the hierarchical pyramid. But in California, local indigenous people belonged to the 5th strata. They mostly worked in agriculture and were forced to work without payment. After the decline in numbers of sea beavers, Fort Ross tried to expand agriculture and build 3 more farms, but still it was not profitable. In late 1830s, Russian Emperor Nicholas I wanted to sell Fort Ross. The Mexican government, considering the land under Fort Ross theirs, did not want to buy it, waiting for Russians to abandon the fortress. Russian-American company found a customer. The person who bought Fort Ross was John Sutter, an American who paid 43,000 rubles in silver in 1839. That's a brief story of Russian colony in California. If you are interested, you can visit the historic landmark. The fortress was rebuilt and presents a historic park nowadays. That's it for today. Thank you for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.